installing and configuring MongoDB. Is it working fine? Everything is working fine. Yes. Yes, Shubham, you have to use update many. If you want to update, you have to many records, you have to use update many. Huh? So update will update only one specific record. If you want to update many, you have to use update many option. Huh? Update many option. Update one, update many. Yesterday I given you some options to try. Huh? Some options to try. Were you able to do that? Able to do that? Adding a new field. Were you able to do that? Adding a new field. Right. Yes. So that is just by using the update command. In update command, first you have to use the filters. You need to have the filters and configure the filters and all. Some more aggregation functions you will learn so that you can use them. Aggregating functions, you can use them. Updating with aggregations, I will show you. Right. So technically, next important option is we have learned how to filter the records. How do we search the records? So how do we update the records? And another important option is how we can delete the records. How we can delete the records. Delete operations. How we can manage the delete operations. So delete operations, that means delete operations, they are used to delete operations. It is the process of removing records, removing records, removing records from collection. So for that, we have two important methods. The methods used are, so we have delete one and we have delete many. So these are the methods used for deleting the records. Right. So how we can delete the records? How we can manage the delete operations? Actually, syntactically, delete operation also requires properties to define. So they use a filter and a query. Filter and a query. So generally, to delete the records and to configure the records, filters are required. We have to use the conditions and the filters. So same as we define. That means, for example, I want to delete any specific record. We need to define syntactically, we need to define the filter. So db dot table name means collection name dot delete one. And here we need to define the filter. Filter is the same filter that you use for find, the same filter that you use for find. That means If you want to delete any specific record, then we can use a delete option. We can configure delete option. For example, let's open the command here. So cd program files, cd MongoDB, cd server, cd 4.4, cd okay, and Mongo. And here we are defining connection field. So Mongo, some connection failed. Okay, let me check. If sometimes this connection failed comes means the server may be stopped once verify that. So in our services, MongoDB is MongoDB server. You see, it is stopped. So I will make start and make it running. We need to start that. Yeah. So fine. Now let's run some Mongo. Okay. It's connected now. So use DemoDB. Okay. Show collections, and we have the collections. And here we are using TBL categories. So we have TBL categories, db.tbl categories dot find dot pretty. It is showing these details. So TBL categories. Okay, TBL categories. Okay, this is the records present in that. I want to delete any specific record. Suppose the category 2 must be removed, category ID 2 must be removed. Then what we have to do is db.tbl categories dot, so delete one. And here we have to write the query. The query is same like your finding query filter. So that means we have to define, so category ID is 2. So category ID is 2. You can use greater than, you can use less than. All the filters are same like as you define. All the filters are same like as you define. If you want to delete multiple records whose category is footwear, then you can simply put delete many. You can use delete many option. So this is for removing any specific record. So, and it has to remove that particular record. And you can see one error message comes. Error message is nothing but, you remembered we have given our categories as we given the categories as a capped collection. We designed that as a capped collection. Capped collection, you see, it says cannot remove from a capped collection. We created our table as collection. If you remember that, capped collection means automatically the collection will have a limited size and the new records will replace the old records. From a capped collection, so we cannot remove the records. So that is what actually the message it is showing. So suppose we are using some the capped collection. So we have db.tbl products dot find dot pretty. So you catch that. And here I want to remove any specific record. I want to remove any specific record. Suppose I want to remove that shirt. The last record is their shirt. I want to remove that shirt record. So then what I can do here is that is product ID. Then db.tbl products dot delete one. And here we say product ID. We need to write the condition here by using filter options. Product ID is equal to 3. product ID is 3. So it should remove that product ID 3, then acknowledge it true and delete count 1. It is deleted. So capped collections, you cannot remove from the capped collections because previously we created a capped collection. So TBL categories is having a capped collection. If it is having a capped collection, then usually the capped collection so will not allow to remove the records because it is having a constant size, and it will allow you only to add the records, and the existing records will be automatically deleted by replacing the old records when the maximum size is reached. So we can apply the filter by using this technique. We can apply the filter by using this technique. That is how we can handle the delete operation. So when you are dealing with delete, so these are the delete operations, how we can manage. So multiple records, then we have to use delete many. We have to use the option delete many. So delete many will delete multiple records which are matching with your condition. Suppose you want to delete all the records whose category is electronics. In that case, this is an example first here, an example here. Yeah. So if you want to delete all the records, so then you can write db.tbl products dot delete mini, and here we can define the option category is some electronics. So that is the query we can give. All the filter queries are used same as you have learned for general finding. So the same options we have to use here. So the same you have to use here. So this is generally how we can handle the CRUD operations. So the create operation, the read operation, the update operation, and the delete operations, how we can manage these operations. Next, some more important operations are there. You need to understand how to deal with them, how to configure them. So this is the basic. So that means this is the basic of handling all the CRUD operations. Now, once you know these CRUD operations, we must able to manage all these operations from the user interface. That means we need to handle the communication and handle everything from the user interface. That means in database, we learned how we can create a table, how we can add records, how we can find records, how we can update the records, and how we can delete the records. Now we need a UI from where you can manage these interactions. Generally UI we will design in JavaScript, jQuery, HTML and all. But interacting with the database, JavaScript, jQuery, these cannot directly interact with the database. We need the help of a server-side technology. By using the server-side technologies, we need to manage the interactions. And we need to handle them. So technically, so we need to handle various interactions and manage the interactions. So from the UI that we will see, we need one server-side technology for that. By using the server-side technology, we can handle that. So once you are good in understanding these database CRUD operations, some more operations are there. Like in the database, you need to understand about how we can handle aggregations, how we can handle the aggregations, and how we can handle the database related models. So generally we call them as data models. How we can design the models, patterns and all. In a project-based environment, these all are required. All are required. But for us in a full stack development process, initially these are enough. These are enough. Now, once we start working with these in the design, we will learn some more options in the database, which will allow us to handle interaction with the database with some aggregations and functions. So in MongoDB, here we need to understand up to the CRUD operations. Now everything we are ready with the database tables and op. Now later we will create one project, one small application to interact with. Now your database is ready and all the options are ready, right? Now once the database is ready and everything is ready, so means tables, data, everything is ready and you know all the operations, reading, inserting, updating and deleting. Now we need to handle this data so from our application. In order to handle the data from the application, now you need a server side technology. So we need a server side technology. So server side technology. So what is server side technology? That means actually we call this as server side scripting. This is a very big concept and very important to understand. So what is server side scripting and how do we deal with server side scripting? So we need to learn server side scripting in order to interact with the database. Right. So we will see. How to handle a server side technique. Actually, technically, what is server side scripting? So what is server side scripting? So server side scripting, server side scripting, server side scripting, server side scripting is a technique, used in web applications, Actually, server side technique is server side scripting is a technique used in web applications. So to handle the request from client. So handle the request from client and send a customized response for every client request. That means actually server side scripting means in another way, server side scripting is a technique where scripts are employed on server in order to generate a response customized to every client request. So that means generally server side scripting. So generally we call server side scripting. Generally many people simply call server side scripting language, right? Server side scripting language, that is not a good one. So that means you should not say server side scripting language. So there is nothing like server side scripting language. Server side scripting is a technique actually. So server side scripting languages will not be there. There is nothing like language. There is nothing like language. We will have server side scripting. We generally have server side scripting. What is server side scripting? Server side scripting means it is a technique where the scripts are employed on server. That means the scripts are kept on server. So that means generally, so we will have a client and a server. Generally, we will have a client and we have a server, client and server. So this is server, and we have the client. This is the client. We have a client and server. Now the scripts are employed on server. A script is employed on server. We keep the script on server. So scripts are employed on server. And when client makes a request, so client will make a request. So according to the client request, client will make a request. According to the client request, the script will process and it will generate a response and send a response to the client. It will send a response to the client. So this is the role of server side scripting. That means he sends a request, it will process that request and it will generate a response and sends the response. That request can be various. So the request can be to database, request can be for without database. So many types will be there. It can be database, without database, so many, it can be there. So generally, usually server side scripting, so is keep your scripts on the server. And those scripts are they generate response to the request according to the client request, and they will send. That's what actually the concept is. That is the key concept, how it is going to handle, right? How it is going to handle. Technically, this server side scripting can do a lot of things. If necessary, it can communicate and get the information from the database. It can get the data from the database. So it can get the information from various files. That means we have the database. So database is present on a database server. It can communicate with the database server, get response, and from there, and it can handle. That means there can be a database server. On the database server, there can be database. So we can have database. So this database can be accessed and used. Not every time. It is additional. So this is the approach. Till now, we learned client side, we use HTML. So we use CSS, we use JavaScript. So we use jQuery and all this. We use client side. Server side, so in the database, we have used database like MongoDB and we created the database. Now you need a server side scripting technology, so which can handle the communication between the client and the database and the server. So that means we need some server side scripting techniques, server side scripting technologies. And there are so many server side scripting technologies. Now we are going to learn Node.js as server side scripting. Node.js is a server side scripting technology. And there are several server side scripting technologies. That means there are various server side scripting technologies. So there are various server side scripting technologies. I will show you lot of server side scripting technologies with the different types of extensions will be there. I will show you a simple presentation for that. Yeah. Means generally, it is a big concept. So we are going to understand one by one. Yes. Server side scripting technologies. So some presentations. Yeah. So it's different servers. This is not, yeah. Let me take you to that presentation. This is not the server side. These are, yes, these are server side scripting. This is a different one. Anywhere server side scripting is same, but let me take you to the clear one here. So many days. This is versions. Okay, somewhere I kept that presentation. Okay, the next session I will show you, right? No problem. It is just means various technologies, different types of technologies, so which are used in real world development process for building applications actually. So that is what actually server side. Okay, I have a separate presentation for that. In the next session I will show them, right? Yeah, actually that is just to understand, so different purpose of that technologies, right? Means how the communication happens. So services communication happens from client and server side. A good simple diagrammatic example is there. Okay, in the next session I will show you how it happens and how it is used. So that is actually server side scripting. I told you server side scripting, so that it is a technique, and various server side technologies are there, like JSP, like PHP, like ASP, like CGI is the first server side technology, so which uses C language. So we also have Python also can do Node.js. All these are the server side scripting technologies. All these are the server side scripting technologies. Now the key point here is you can use any server side scripting technology for handling. Different technologies have different approaches. So learning server side scripting is all about handling certain interactions. That means we are going to learn various technologies are there. We are going to learn Node.js. We are going to learn Node.js as our server-side scripting technology. Node.js is a server-side scripting technology. And what is this Node.js and how this Node.js works, how it is better than other technologies in various situations, We will discuss. Why? Because depending on the requirement, not every time. So depending on the requirement, not every time. So what is technically Node.js and how this Node.js works, and why we are choosing Node.js as our server-side scripting technology? What are the features? So actually, the main purpose of choosing Node.js is some advantages I will tell you. Before that, you should know that what is there in a server-side technology to learn. Actually, server-side technologies means server-side scripting means server-side scripting. Server-side scripting is all about handling following objects. So server-side script is all about handling the objects. So we call them as a request object. We have response object. So we have a session object. We have application object. So we have cookies. So dealing with and some more are there. These are the major one. Technically, if anybody asks like what is there in a server-side technology to learn, because actually JSP is a server-side technology. And this JSP server-side technology will use Java as language. It will use Java as language. That means the language used is Java. Then the first question asked by the learner is, if Java is used for JSP, what is there in JSP to learn? What should I learn in JSP? So that means in any server-side technology, and similarly, suppose we have ASP.NET. It is a server-side technology. ASP.NET uses a language called C#. If C# is a language used for ASP.NET, then what is there in ASP.NET to learn? So Python. Uses Python language. Then what is there in Python server-side frameworks to learn? That means learning server-side scripting is all about handling these objects. So request object, response object, session object, application object, cookies objects, and all this. That means if anybody asks like what we have to learn in server-side technology, then you have to tell that in server-side technology we need to learn about these objects. Basic point I will tell you. What are these objects? What is request object? What is response object? Actually, request object is simple. Request object is nothing but it provides a set of properties and methods that are used by client to request resources from server. That means request object. So the request object will provide some set of properties and methods that are used by client in order to request the resources from server. That means on server some resources are present. We want to access those resources. Then client uses a request object. So that means client can request various things, like client can request query string, client can request session, client can request cookie, client can request a file, etc. All this can be done by using the request. What is query string, session, cookies, and all these we will discuss. We will learn about that. So request object is used by client in order to fetch information from the server. Similarly, we have a response object. A response object, technically, it provides a set of properties and methods, that are used by server, to send response to client. That means if server has to send something to client, then it will send by using a response object. So server can send cookie as response, file as response. It can send various details or any resource as response. So that means response object and request object, entire communication happens through this response and request object. Request object is to fetch the information from server. Response object to send the information to the client. Entire server-side technology depends on these two request and response objects. We generally have one more. So we have a session object. Usually, session object is nothing but session object. So it provides the memory. To keep information and make it available across requests. So session provides the memory to keep information and make it available across requests. Actually, in server side technologies use HTTP, and which is HTTP is generally we call HTTP, which is a stateless protocol. Stateless protocol means it cannot remember information from one page to another. When you are moving from one page to another page, so HTTP cannot remember the information of previous page. It will clean up the memory of previous page and freshly it loads the memory for the new page. So transporting data from one page to another page, managing state. So that means we have to manage state for application. So we have to manage state for session of client. For that we use this session object. Don't worry, these you are going to learn. Initially, I am just giving a point that generally in server-side technology, what we have to learn. Why we choose Node.js as our server-side technology? Because Node.js uses JavaScript. So that means you don't need to learn anything specially new here, because the language used by Node.js is JavaScript. So it is easy for us to handle Node.js as a server-side technology, because Node.js is a JavaScript-based one. So we have request, we have session, so we have application object. Usually we have an application object. Generally session object uses a mechanism called single call mechanism. That means object is created for every client. Object is created for every client. Later detailedly we will learn about that. Is created for every client. Application, it is similar to session, but uses singleton pattern. Singleton pattern. What is singleton? I will tell you. It uses singleton pattern. That means it maintains memory, maintains memory. So it maintains memory. It maintains memory for application. So maintain memory for application to handle data. So data across requests. So to handle data across requests. So we will learn about that. No need to worry. Similarly, cookies also same. That means cookies also same. So cookies are actually cookies are simple text files. So data is maintained in these text files. So to transport across request, in JavaScript also across request. JavaScript already I told you a point about the cookies, how to know cookies enabled or not, cookies disabled or not. I told you one simple example with navigator object. We learned about that, if you remembered that option. These are all the options that we have to learn in server-side technologies. And the server-side technology which we are going to learn is Node.js. We are going to learn Node.js as our server-side technology. So Node.js, what is Node.js? And how do we use Node.js as the server-side technology to handle communication between client and database? That we have to do. And that we will see in our next session. So Monday, we will start working with Node.js, because Node.js is already installed in your computer. You have to directly start working with Node.js. So we have to directly work. Java is not server-side scripting. JSP is server-side scripting, right? Java is a language. JSP uses Java as a language for server-side scripting. Understood? MVC is a framework. MVC is a framework. It is not a server-side scripting, right?